the last Ember of Drakoria. The Ember slept as if it were a heart, not cold, not hot, merely waiting. It lay buried beneath straw and old iron in the stable's farthest stall, where the walls sweated resin and the air smelled of hay and rain. When the boy drew near, the Ember brightened, a pulse-like breath taken after a long silence. Kale had grown up listening to animals breathe, horses in the night, oxen at dawn, the tired sigh of mules returning from the fields. He knew the language of weight and warmth, of hooves that trusted the ground beneath them. He did not know the language of dragons. He did not know that the faint glow curling through the straw was older than the kingdom, older than the names people used to bless their children. He only knew that when he reached down, the Ember did not burn him. It warmed him. As if recognizing something shared, the night Drakoria fell. The sky had torn like cloth. Kale had been smaller then, hidden beneath a cart as fire braided itself through cloud and stone. He remembered the sound most clearly, not the roar, but the sudden absence of birdsong, as if the world had inhaled and forgotten how to breathe out. By morning, the mountains wore a new crown of ash. By dusk, the dragons were stories against charred bones cooling beneath the wind. The elders said the dragons had fled. Kale had learned early that truth often crouched where no one thought to look. He found the Ember because the mare would not enter the stall. She rolled her eyes and stamped, refusing the shadows. Kale coaxed and soothed, his voice a quiet river. When he knelt to gather the fallen straw, the light touched his face. It flickered brighter at the sound of his breath. He should have called someone. He should have run. Instead, he cupped it in his hands. The Ember throbbed, and with it came a whisper, not a voice, but a pressure behind the eyes. A memory trying to be remembered. Wings spanning valleys. Drakoria was not a place, the Ember seemed to say, but a promise. Kale wrapped it in a scrap of wool and hid it beneath his tunic. All night, it warmed him, and when he slept, he dreamed of scales like sunlit rivers and a sky that knew his name. By morning, the dark had found him. It arrived first as a taste in the air, like iron after rain. The stable door creaked, not with age but with intent. A figure stood there, tall and cloaked, the folds of fabric drinking the light. His eyes glimmered with a hue that was not color so much as hunger. "You carry something," the man said. His voice was smooth, a blade sheathed in velvet, something that does not belong to you. Kale's hand went instinctively to his chest. The Ember flared in answer, and the shadows recoiled, hissing like wet ash. The man smiled. "That promise. Hiba to me." Kale thought of the fields burned black, of the nights when the wind still smelled of cinders. He thought of the way the Ember had warmed him without taking. "No," he said, surprised by the steadiness in his voice. The man's smile sharpened. "Then you will learn how it screams." The darkness lunged. The stable groaned as beams splintered, shadows coiling like living things. Kale ran not away from the Ember, but with it. He burst into the dawn, the world pale and fragile, and fled toward the old paths that wound into the hills. The Ember guided him. It tugged, a gentle insistence, toward stone older than walls, toward a cave the elders had sealed with prayer and fear. As Kale ran, the ground trembled, and the wind carried a distant thunder knot. The storms. But something waking. He reached the cave at dusk. Inside, the air hummed. Carvings etched the walls. Dragons in flight. Dragons coiled around saplings. Dragons with their heads bowed to kneeling humans. Kale pressed the Ember to the stone, and the cave breathed open. Light spilled like dawn unbound. Within lay a cradle of basalt, smoothed by time and touch. Kale set the Ember there, and it expanded not in size, but in presence. Heat rippled, gentle and fierce. The carvings stirred, lines deepening as if remembering themselves. Outside, the sky darkened, the sun dragged down by gathering shadow. The man in the cloak stood at the threshold. Around him, the dark thickened, fed by old hatred and newer grief. "Do you know what it is?" he asked. "That Ember is not rebirth. It is power. I will give the world something it cannot forget." Kale stepped between the man and the cradle. "It chooses," he said, the words rising from somewhere deeper than memory, and it chose me. The ember flared white gold. Pain lanced through Kayla, not burning, but breaking. Old fear split open, spilling out. He saw himself small beneath the cart. He saw the sky tear. He saw the moment he decided to live anyway. Fire wrapped him, not as a weapon, but as a vow. The man screamed as light met shadow. Nightmare flames surged, blackened and hungry, clashing with the ember's warmth. The cave rang like a bell struck true. Kale fell to his knees, breath tearing from him. He pressed his palms to the stone and gave the ember everything he had. His fear, his grief, his stubborn hope. "I will guard," he whispered. "I will remember," the ember answered. From the cradle, fire took shape, not a beast of terror, but a form drawn in patience. Scales unfolded like sunrise through leaves. A dragon, small at first, its eyes molten ember, its breath a sigh that set the air singing. The darkness recoiled, shrieking as the light found its seams. The man staggered, cloak unraveling, his hunger laid bare and burned away. When he fled, the shadows fled with him, torn and thin. The dragon turned its gaze on Kale. It lowered its head, and where its brow touched his, the ember sank into him, not consumed, but shared. The warmth settled behind his ribs, steady as breath. Outside, the sky broke open. Ash lifted from the hills, like a curse undone. Green pushed through blackened soil. Far off, something answered a cry, faint but certain, carried on the wind. Days passed, then weeks. The dragon grew, fed by care rather than conquest. Others came, drawn by the same warmth Kale had felt. Embers surfaced from forgotten places, answering the call. Each time, Kale stood witness, guardian, not master. At night, he slept beneath wings that cooled the world. By day, he walked the fields, and where he stepped, the ground remembered how to bloom. People came, cautious at first, then hopeful. They brought stories instead of chains, offerings of trust. Drakoria returned not as a throne of fire, but as a covenant. Years later, when the last ember had become the first flight, Kale stood at the cliff's edge and watched dragons wheel across a healed sky. The warmth in his chest pulsed, familiar and alive. The world breathed in, and this time it remembered how to breathe out. The ember had slept it out, and it had chosen well.